you right wing or left wing?
I really like buffalo wings.
Hi, and welcome back to Through the Muck and the Mire. I'm your host, David Hollifield, and tonight I've got a special guest for you. I guess I've been a guest on his show, and I shared it on here. I've been on his show twice, actually. Anyways, Jim from Ignore the Rant is on, and we're just going to be talking about some current events, I guess, pretty much. Probably talk about some guns and some criminal justice, maybe some Joe Biden and some voting. And I don't know, whatever else we think up on the way. So as soon as he gets in here, sit back and relax and have a little swig and enjoy. And also, I'd like to extend an invite to anybody that has a particular topic that you'd like me to cover, or Jim on his show. If you follow his show, if you don't follow his show, you should, and you should listen to it. But please drop some comments. You know, if you're watching this on YouTube, drop some comments in the comment section, or you can reach out to me on either Instagram or Facebook at Through the Muck and the Mire, or Twitter also. So yeah, let me know what you want to hear about. And it looks like Jim is ready to join.
Hello.
Jimbo, what's going on, man?
Trying to see if I can make this fucking thing. Can you hear me at all?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. I'm not getting any sound back to me from me talking, so I don't know what the fuck I sound like. But just want to make sure, doing this over Zoom, I don't know if it's gonna blast it out or
no. I think if anything, it might be quiet, but I think it should be good.
So initially we had discussed doing a Biden episode where we were going to go through a lot of what that old coot has been up to since taking office. And I'll be honest, I haven't been paying much attention to the old man.
Me either.
Even tonight, in the hour and a half or whatever that I've been home from work, I was just trying to look, and everything I was finding was all pre-President Biden. And it was just, the 5-6 decades or whatever of
garbage.
Yeah. Because there's a lot there. There's a whole hell of a lot there. And I know it's hard to talk about him without coming across sounding like Hannity or Tucker. But if you start looking into his family, his brothers, Frank and James, and all of the business dealings they had that basically were all approved and pushed through because of, who Joe is, that could be an episode on its own.
Right.
And then you get into, Hunter, you could do a multi-part series just on him.
Yeah. When he was in the news, I did do multi-part. I think I put out at least three, maybe 4 videos on him, back to back, as that, as the new pictures and videos and stuff were coming out. And I'm sure there's tons more of that now.
I remember you did a video where you basically said, sorry, Democrats, the Hunter Biden laptop is real, or this Hunter Biden
the story is true.
Yeah, the story is true because and the way that I guess didn't spend too much time questioning if it was true was how much they were trying to suppress it. Anytime that's happening.
Well, I mean, the FBI literally came out and said, yeah, we've been investigating him for over a year. There's an open investigation.
Yeah.
It's like, how can you fucking deny? Even the FBI, who I think a lot of people would argue has, leaned towards Democratic politicians. They're not supposed to be partisan whatsoever, but people definitely see it differently. But even the FBI said, yeah, Hunter Biden is under investigation. So
yep, and he has been ever since. Well, that orange man made a phone call saying, "Hey, I would like for you to, investigate Hunter's dealings or whatever." Our own government was already investigating them, and they were like, "You can't ask for that. We're already doing that, and we won't tell you that we're doing it until, well, it's advantageous."
Yeah.
It's all the wonderful inner workings of DC and, well, politics. Politics is war, and it shall be hated, like every other war.
Yeah.
opinion.
So I guess my intention for the roast of Biden was like, I was going to let you lead because I assumed that you'd been keeping up with it more than I have. I've been swamped with just like school and, my son and just life. But I figured you probably knew more about like all of the laundry list of executive orders that he's pushed out and stuff like that. So we can definitely do a follow-up conversation and actually look at all of that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I found the list.
Yeah, but actually, I want to actually look at it.
Oh, absolutely. They're saying there's 69 of them.
That's a lot.
I found a list where it's like, well, there's 39 that are categorized as this. There's 17 that are categorized as this, and the differences in what they mean.
Right. I was wondering about that because I very briefly looked at it and I saw like one of the ones about, I think it was about the border. Instead of it saying that it was executive action, it said it was like a proclamation or something.
Okay. Yeah, here it is. As of March 31st, 2021, President Joe Biden has signed 37 executive orders, 13 presidential memoranda, and 32 proclamations and 9 notices. Now, other than the 9, if you add 37, 13, and 32, that's how you get to that 69 number that they're touting as all executive orders, but they're not all created equally. And it even says in the next paragraph, each of these presidential documents is different in authority and implementation. And then it goes into what an executive order is. So I want to, because of the number of items there,
69.
Yeah, nice. That's going to take some time to actually go through and speak about educatedly without sounding like a goober.
Right.
If I wanted to sound like a goober, I would just comment on your Facebook posts. And I don't know enough about these. I know that we live in the age of executive orders, and it was terrible the first time they did it, and it was even more, it was even worse the next president that came in that signed executive orders to undo the existing executive orders. And
yeah,
it's there doesn't seem to be a lot of desire to govern based on what the people want. It seems to be more of two warring tribes, or at least that act like they're warring in front of us, that pit the voter base against each other so that they can claim that they're there for something, to fight against the supposed enemy, even though they laugh behind closed doors and all go out to dinner together. And when the Patriot Act needs to get reinstated, they sure seem to find a way to meet on that within 24 hours and get it reinstated.
Yeah.
But when stimulus checks are getting kicked around, and what is the total payout now? I guess 1,400, then 600, so $2,000, and then what was the first one?
I think it was 1,200 the first time, so $3,200.
Yeah, so $3,200 over a year of them putting a lot of people out of work. I don't know about you, and this isn't to get into anybody's finances, but I can guarantee you, I could pick basically any American of working age. They can't live on $3,200 a year.
No.
That's like poverty's poverty. So they sit there and they will fight and bicker while the cameras are on to make you think that if I choose this team, I'll get something out of it. And instead, 12 months later, you're still checking the mail or checking your direct deposit to see if a measly $1,200 has come your way.
Right.
And none of them are here for what they claim to be here for, because it has nothing to do with any of us. We are their pawns. We are their chips that they can move around at will. So it makes it look like they're doing something.
Right. And in the meantime, while they'll bicker and complain about, whether we should get $1,200 or $2,000 or $600, they can agree easily that all of these other nations can get hundreds of millions or even billions of dollars.
Of course.
And they both support it. So it's like, what the
Yeah.
fuck's the issue here? You just don't like to give Americans their tax money back? I don't understand.
No. We only like that money moving in one direction, and it doesn't go back down. It always comes up. That's how that goes. But it's funny, like at CPAC this year, I forget who said it, but there was some speaker. I don't know if he was holding office or anything like that. Forgive me for being unprepared, but I do remember one of the stories that came out of CPAC this year was one of the people there were saying, hey, the Republicans really fucked up. Like, they should have been out in front of this and said, stimulus checks, we should be shooting for $10,000 stimulus checks, and take that away from the Democrats for trying to make themselves look like they are the party of the people. Because they were saying, at this point, what does it matter? We're printing so much money, we can honestly afford to pay every working American $10,000, and it would still be, just as bad fiscal policy as what we're doing now. So at least they would actually get something out of it. And I thought that was interesting, because we're seeing a restructuring of, I guess, not party lines, but what attributes can be applied to different parties, because Republicans aren't fiscally conservative. That was an old tagline that got wore out back in the 70s. So I think that was an interesting comment to make, because they realize we're losing this game. We are losing this culture war or whatever, trying to act like we are the stopgap holding the Democrats back, because everything that has been getting passed for the past 20 years has all been moving not in the right. It's not going in the right's direction. Everything is incrementally, sometimes very small measures, and sometimes very broad, but it's all moving in one direction, and it's to the left. At least that's the way I've seen it. Now, it might be because I disagree with them on most every policy they have that it stands out a little bit more. But like, for example, this new Georgia voter law that's, hey, Jim Crow is now Jim Eagle or something like that. I don't know. I'm just listening to my president. But most everything in that are things that the left wanted, that now is written into law that wasn't before. Like the ballot drop boxes. What a lot of people don't understand is that if the Georgia legislature didn't address that, they would go away, because they were only there by way of Governor Kemp's executive order that was dealing with the emergency powers that he signed due to COVID. And if nothing was addressed, those were going to go away, because they were never written into law. But now they are. And last time I checked, that was something that the Democrats were really, pushing for and wanting. And remember when they got super scared when they saw those trucks of mailboxes all on the backs of trucks, and they were like, Trump is making the USPS remove, mailboxes because he's wanting to cut down. And it was like, no, that's not what that was. But so now it's in law here in Georgia, and you and I messaged a little bit, or I commented on one of your posts. I think it was yesterday on Facebook, where I said, I hate the law for a lot of other reasons, of all the things they didn't address. To me, I see this voter law as nothing but a series of wins for the Democrats that just happen to get passed by a Republican. So they have to act like they hate it and posture like it's Jim Crow. And I don't see it that way at all. But you now just force the Republicans, or didn't force, but you just got the Republicans to sign things that they traditionally would be 100% against. So again, incrementally moving in one direction, but in the meantime, we have to find something, even if it's just one line in there, to claim that we're the victims, and it's hilarious to me.
I think that so I feel like I definitely agree with you that stuff has moved progressively towards the left, or at least towards the center, because I mean, anyways, I was going to say a lot of Democrats, or like traditional Democrats, aren't really like left of center anyways. They're actually like a little bit right of center on like an actual, political compass, whatever, but that's getting into the weeds. What I was going to say is, on the issue of voting, I don't think that should be viewed as like a liberal or like a left-wing policy, just because the left is the ones that are pushing it. Like, wanting more people to vote shouldn't be, oh, well, that's a liberal idea. Like, why the fuck should it be a liberal idea that we want more Americans to be able to vote? Like, if Republicans just if Republicans just appealed to more people, then that would be good for them, right? So I guess, like, ultimately what they're saying is that it's a liberal policy because they don't appeal to more people.
I think I don't disagree with you as far as the way that the argument is currently made based on how things are currently played out. I think that it's interesting, though, that if voting was conducted a certain way for decades or over a century or whatever, and then all of a sudden one party starts losing, and then they start looking for, well, how can it must just be too difficult. So let's open this thing up. And as soon as they do that, they start winning. And then the opposing party would just be like, wow, this is great. This is great how many elections we're losing. Let's not, I mean, obviously, if how things are being conducted is not favoring us or allowing us to win any elections, then I guess we probably should just, wipe our, wring our hands of it and say, well, my job's done. Let's let these people take over. That's not the nature of power. And especially obtaining power. Voting is one of the most heavily fucked with things in our country, because it's not, I don't see it any differently than when the right loses, they, like this last election, Georgia writes into law all these different things, which I think will actually benefit the left. But anyway, I guess we'll see.
Well, they did the same shit with, the gubernatorial one with the purging of voters.
Mm-hmm.
And, just happened to be that, statistically more, poor minority people were purged from the voting list.
Yeah.
I wonder why.
Well, and then if you look at that, it's like, okay, well, we're purging people that haven't voted in like 2 elections or whatever. So the one thing I think everybody knows that's true is Republicans vote more consistently. They're at every election. They leave their house. They put on their Tuesday best, and they go out to the ballots and they fill them out and do all that stuff. I think that that's one of the big reasons why Trump lost, is he banked on that and didn't utilize the tools that they were making available. Even though I disagree with every single one of them, he didn't take advantage of the tools that were laid at his feet to win. But because he knows that, well, the Republicans will show up to the polls and get out there, and it's going to be great. It's going to be wonderful, whatever. But what the fuck was I going to say? I was going to retort on your comment, but fuck, I totally lost what you said just before that. But
I can't remember what I said either.
Stacey Abrams gubernatorial race.
Oh yeah, the purging, voter purging.
So yeah,
I'm just saying, like, they go back and forth. They both are actively trying to win elections.
Correct. But one thing that does happen is if the Democrat voter is not all in, thinking that if they got to vote like their life depends on it, because that's literally what they tell them. If they're not all in on a candidate, they won't show up for any of the candidates. They'll just stay the fuck home, and they'll miss 2 or 3 elections. They all showed up for Obama twice, but I didn't see that many people show up for Kerry. And George Bush was terrible, just horrible. But they didn't really dig Kerry, so they skipped that one entirely. I think it's just, I don't think that you would see that Republicans miss elections. I think the fact that Georgia stayed home in the last runoff, the reason why it was so shocking was because it was an anomaly. That doesn't happen. And over 500,000 Georgia voters stayed home in the runoff. And that's how you got Warnock on Ossoff in there. And that was like groundbreaking, like, Georgia, what the fuck? And so if you miss elections and they're like, well, okay, I guess this person's not voting anymore, let's purge them. And yeah, it would naturally affect the party that votes the least frequently. And that happens to be Democrats, which also happens to have a lot of impoverished minorities as their voting bloc. To me, I see it makes sense. Is it obvious as far as the outcome that they're trying to gain? Sure. But that's the nature of politics, is you work within the gray zone of the system. And as long as the Constitution doesn't say I can't do it, then it's constitutional. And that's how we've been operating.
Let's see if I can find, you can continue. I wanted to look at the numbers, because I think it was like part of the issue wasn't just that they got purged like by traditional means. It was like there were people that shouldn't have got purged, and the people that out of all of the people that did get purged, out of the ones that shouldn't have been purged, it hurt the Democrats worse. Like, the ones that were wrongfully removed from the list, and it might not even been enough to swing the election, but it's still like,
I'm certain there was
extra sketchy shit,
Yeah, no, I'm certain there was fuckery afoot. It's an election. Every election is wrought with, shady shit.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this last one was just on a monumental scale that I don't know if I want to bring up, because I don't want to get your shit nuked. But going back to, people, the losing party bitching and complaining about the prior election measures, does anybody remember, I don't know, every time a Democrat president lost in this century, what was the first thing they wanted to do? Abolish the Electoral College.
Yep.
And why is that? Because that pesky little thing was keeping them from winning.
Mm-hmm.
And they knew that if they got rid of that, well, then Republicans would never win a federal seat, or a presidential seat anyway, ever again, because the numbers are on their side. But anyway, if you got something pulled up, I don't want to.
Oh no, I gave up on it, because I said what the point was. Like the point of it was basically just like it's not just that they got purged. It was like the ones that got purged wrongfully. It was targeted, or at least it seemed that way. But
I really wish they wouldn't have done that, because that turned Stacey Abrams on a fucking tear.
Right. I mean, it's just the Republican Party just shoots themselves in the foot like nonstop. It's like, if you don't do these things to yourself, you probably stand a better chance. And we talked about this too earlier. Like the link that you sent me of those two guys talking about Stacey Abrams.
Mm-hmm.
What was it? Like, I mean, his point was essentially like just appeal to more people and you'll get the votes and you'll win. Oh yeah, it was like if you changed your policy stances just a hair on like abortion or a couple other like big ticket issues, then you would have got the votes and you'd be the governor right now. And that's like, I agree with that. And I also think that the same exact message goes to the Republicans, is like, instead of either one of you guys focusing on, should we allow every single person in the United States to vote, or like 5 people to vote? Instead of doing that, just focus on like the number that you already have of voting people. Like, do you actually represent them? If you don't fucking represent them, then you don't get elected. Like, that's like, the government is supposed to be representative of the people. So I don't know, either represent represent the people or don't fucking run. I don't know.
The simplest way to put the message that they were saying, and it was Glenn Lowry and John McWhorter, I believe, and it's on YouTube. The title is Stacey Abrams Right About Voter Suppression? And it was just a little 6-minute clip. I thought it was just an interesting convo because really their message, I can sum it up in one sentence: campaign better.
Which
That's it.
It seems like for the presidential campaign, she did a good job, but not for her own gubernatorial.
The way that I see it is, like I said, I expect there to be fuckery found in every election that has a certain level of power associated with it. And that's gubernatorial, that's presidential, Senate, whatever. Anything larger than your county seat, I would imagine, and maybe even in county seats. And in fact, some of the most fucked up shit happens in local elections. You just don't hear about it because they're not affecting that many people. But I expect there to always be people gaming the system in every election. And that being known, because that's been around since the beginning of, elections. That's nothing new. So whoever wins is just better at politics. And whether it's who the people actually chose, like legitimately, I don't think matters. I think it's indicative of showing who's better at playing politics, whether it's campaigning better, aka lying to your potential voter base better, and having a better message and not and stumbling, like Joe. But what do I know? He won, right?
Well, I was just about to say the last two, the current one and the previous one both kind of ruin that logic.
Yeah,
they're both bumbling fucking idiots.
Well, remember, obviously the cloud surrounding Biden on this last election and how many people don't think that it was legitimate, and also recall the prior election, how many people, they spent about 3 years telling us how illegitimate that one was. So America's full of sore losers. We're not prepared as people to get invested in something and not have it go well. And that shows more about us, and it's reflected through our media, and media affects politics. Politics is downstream from culture, and media is the rudder trying to steer the direction that our culture goes. But politics always follows that. And so they will utilize whatever they think we're motivated by or interested in, which the media will help create, so that they can garner the most power so that they can enrich themselves. And that's why, especially since this last election, I've really started to change, like our conversations that you and I had just mere months ago were probably vastly different than, or at least I was coming from a place vastly different than I am now. I just think it's all bullshit to a degree that deserves nothing but mockery and contempt.
Yeah, no, I feel you on that. I really, like, since the election ended, I was just like, I don't know, like my whole mindset and mood about politics and everything is just like shot. I'm just like, the whole thing is bullshit. For a time I was actually thinking about running locally, either like as independent or, I don't necessarily tie my name to like the Libertarian Party, but I feel like I align the most with them out of, the mainstream
the
parties.
Available ones.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. So
I used to feel that way.
Yeah. But like, regardless, I was thinking about running as an independent or something like that. And it's just like, and it also kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier. Like, if you don't represent the people, then don't fucking run. And I kind of came to that conclusion, and it hurt my feelings. And I was like, hold up. Like, even though I probably technically represent, the thoughts of more people than, Joe Biden or Donald Trump does,
mm-hmm.
or a local Republican or local Democrat does, people just apparently are not ready to vote for independents or third parties. So, like, even if I technically do represent them in their heart, they're not going to fucking vote for me. So why should I run? And it's just like,
yeah,
it's ridiculous.
And there's an argument that could be made that Trump was the closest thing to a third party president in our lifetime. Because in all actuality, say what you will as far as how different he was than the modern day Democrats and Democratic Party, but that dude was straight up a mid '90s Democrat, and everything that he was for, he pushed, he campaigned on. Pull up any video of any major Democrat, and you don't even have to go back to the '90s. Go back to like '06. They were saying all the same shit he was.
Probably even like '08. Some of this like 2012. Like yeah.
I played a video clip. This isn't a politician, but for this conversation, he's just as influential, and in reality, he might be. And that was Don Lemon over on CNN. I played a clip on one of our most recent episodes on my little show of him, and I think it was around 2010 to 2011 or 12, somewhere around there. And he was just going off. He had a 5-point thing where he was agreeing with Bill O'Reilly about how Black Americans need to get their shit together and clean up the culture and pull their pants up and stop calling each other the N-words and saying stop having kids out of wedlock. And I was just like,
I remember watching that video not too long ago. Somebody shared it on Facebook probably. I don't know. But yeah, it's like, oh, their whole rhetoric, everything's just shifts to whatever keeps them popular and relevant and in office or in the media, whatever.
It's whatever gets them the most donations so that they can keep passing along legislation that helps their donors. And if we were donors, we would be represented. Now, we're all technically donors because we all pay taxes, but that's chicken feed compared to the blank checks they get.
Right.
And so they're no longer, and they haven't been, but I think anybody that still thinks that they are a government of the people to serve the people and they are public servants, I think they are vastly misled because they aren't here to represent us or to carry out any things in our interests. They are here to placate their donors and take their money and pass along what they want. So really, they're not even writing the laws. It's the special interest groups in the top 0.1%, or something that Bernie would say. But it's all crazy when you start looking at it that way, to then really get hung up on whether or not you can have food in the election line. And I agree with you. I 1,000,000% agree with you that any law that is being written that will, anyone that violates it is guilty of a victimless crime, and that shouldn't be law. I will never not agree with you there. For me, it was just much more so looking at the big picture of how ridiculous this entire circus is, that I don't give a fuck if somebody can't eat while they're waiting in line. I want it to be as difficult for the laziest of voters so that they won't vote, because I don't think everybody should have a say so in choosing their government, because they're not qualified, in my opinion.
I mean, I feel kind of torn on it because, personally, like my personal opinion is like, I talk to a lot of really stupid people on a daily basis, and I'm like, yeah, I wish you weren't fucking voting. But at the same time,
tend to bring them out. Like,
yeah. I'm like, I would rather you not be voting for president or for local politicians or anything like that. But again, you go back to the government is supposed to be representative of the people. So we need to have representation for people that are, maybe not the smartest or are, I don't know, just people from all kinds of different backgrounds. I don't know. I mean, everybody deserves to be represented. I
totally agree.
Wrestled with the issue about, I didn't really wrestle with it too much, but like felons voting, people are like, some people feel very strongly that felons should lose their voting rights for their life. And I'm like, maybe they should lose their voting rights while they're incarcerated because they're serving a sentence. But like the whole idea of serving a sentence is that justice has been done. And like, that should be the end of it. And also not only that, but the bigger point of it for me, it was like, maybe some of the issues that led this person to committing whatever crime that they committed to become a felon, maybe that's an issue that needs to be represented too, and they can vote for a particular person that represents their interest. So maybe we can, solve some kind of issue by letting their voice be heard as well.
Well, I'll agree with you. Hey, first of all, we all know that not all felonies are created equal. Yeah. I mean, anybody that thinks that every single felon, full stop, should never vote, has never walked out of their buddy's house who happens to live within like 250 feet of his school and peed off their back deck. Congrats.
This
dude.
Sounds like
no more gun story. Ownership. No more. No, it's a dream of mine. I would love to have wander out into my buddy's backyard and have the cops, tase me with my dong.
No, I was thinking like marijuana or some shit, and
sure.
And then not only to get a felony, but like, let's say you're an idiot and you get 3 felonies for weed, and then you get the 3 strikes rule from Joe Biden, and you're in prison for life now for fucking marijuana that's about to be nationally legalized, probably.
And that's all based off like the idea. Obviously, 3 strikes. That's America's pastime. Well, we're multicultural.
Baseball.
We're moving on to football now. Can we just call this a tie and not put it on my record? Like that's how soccer games end, right? It's like nobody won, nobody lost. We'll just play again later.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I think they need to change that up if they're trying to represent the people, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I've been in a different headspace for the past few months. So when I see people arguing about the same old things, I don't come at it from the same position anymore. Like one of the best stories that has happened, I think it was when Biden got in office, it might have predated his inauguration, is the whole Wall Street Bets thing with GameStop and AMC and Dogecoin and everything else that was going ape shit.
Mm-hmm.
And then and then the kerfuffle that came out when all of a sudden Robinhood locked out a lot of people from being able to buy, or you could sell it but you couldn't buy it, which is hence why I got my
oh, nice. I was wondering what that said.
Yeah, I didn't even.
Very nice.
Sorry, I got fuck on your screen like the whole time I'm talking, but yeah, it's fuck Robinhood.
No. You saw what my last guy's shirt said, right?
Chris Camp, the officer?
Yeah.
Sexual preference or sex?
Yeah, my sexual preference is like often or something.
Yeah.
Apparently, it's going to be like a new theme now. I'm going to require everybody to wear a funny shirt when they come on.
Oh, dude, I got a shitload. Well, not funny shirts.
Whatever. Provocative shirts, whatever.
Yeah, I do have those. But I was like, yeah, I'm going to pull out the old fuck Robinhood shirt for Dave.
Very nice.
Because I remember you were talking about, you were diamond hands in like a motherfucker, apparently.
Yeah, I've bought back in too.
Really?
Yeah, I'm holding right now. I've got like 11 shares right now of GME.
Ooh.
It just keeps, pumping. So I'm like, I'm going to hold it for at least like one more and probably pull it out. Cause I don't know. I mean, there's literally no way to know when this is going to end. It could fucking tank tomorrow and I'm out. But, I think that there's at least one more pump in it,
Yeah, possibly. For sure. I mean, fuck, nobody saw the first one coming unless you were already in that Reddit thread and were hip to it. But those lucky bastards. There's actually a lot of people.
Have you watched it lately?
No, I'll be honest.
It jumped up to the January 28th high was like 350, somewhere around there, 350. And then it dropped back down to like $50 or, somewhere around there. Yeah. And it kind of slowly brought steam back up, like got into around 100 or whatever. And then like 2 weeks ago, it shot back up to 350 again.
Son of a fucking bitch.
And now it's back down to like, it dropped to 170 and then it dropped a little bit lower. And now it's right back up to like 190.
Because when you first texted me when it was happening and you're like, are you seeing this shit? And I was in Tennessee for work. I was up there for a week. So I didn't have, I wasn't at home. And so I just had my phone. I was like, fuck, I'm hearing things, but I can't get in. I can't do anything with this. And so by the time I finally got in, it had already soared. And it was just kind of like, oh, hold. No, keep holding, you fucks. So I finally got out at like 125 and I was like, God, never again. I mean, that was fun. I will gladly go lose money if we're putting hedge fund, companies out of business. I will applaud the chaos, and I'll even donate to the cause. But I got out and I didn't even turn back until all of a sudden they were making waves again, like a month later, and it was like, it's doing it again. I was like, these fuck. Somebody warned somebody,
Right. Yeah. No, I started paying a lot more attention to Reddit, and I joined a Discord from one of the guys that I keep track of on YouTube. Mm-hmm. So
yeah,
I try to keep up with it a little bit.
I don't have enough time to pay the amount of attention where I could actually be lucrative in it. I dabble in it, and occasionally, if it's a slow day and I have some time to get involved, I can have some fun in it, but it's just not anything I can fully devote myself to. I got too many shit posts of yours on Facebook to read through to watch the candlesticks.
I have to type those things out, and then I have to respond.
I swear to God, man, I think that you almost have like an app where you just have them scheduled to be released like every 6 hours. Because every time to me, Facebook is a relic. When you have Telegram, Signal, Discord, you used to have Parler, but I don't know. You have all these other ones that it's gone days, mainly the last 30 out of the last 50 days anyway, where I didn't even open Facebook. I was like, there's nothing in there. It's all vanilla, pre-approved. If you say anything even halfway worth listening to, it gets zapped out of existence. But every time I open it, your message is right there. Whatever. It's like every time I open it, it's a different one, and it's that day. And I'm just like, you must have a secretary or something, man.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just like kind of ADD, and I can't focus too long. I'm reading all fucking day for school, so I'm having to take like short mental breaks. And during my mental break, I just decided to write a fucking essay on police shootings or Joe Biden sucks. Or the funny thing though is like, I mean, I could have guessed it, but as soon as I start shifting my focus to Biden, since he's the relevant one that's actually the president now, all these people fucking jumping in, still slobbing on the orange knob, like, oh yeah, you idiots should have voted for Trump. Look, Joe Biden sucks.
Dude, like, that Cheeto dust has got addictive chemicals in it, man. We all know this.
Yeah.
But okay, I remembered now. One thing I was going to say earlier about what the original concept for this episode was diving into Biden's current presidency and what's been going on for the last couple months. And I was like, it's way harder to be able to know what's going on, or it just takes more work. It takes more effort now because there's no bad press from reputable people. I mean, you can go to the same, go to Breitbart, go to Fox News, and you'll find all the Biden's taking us right to hell. But it's nothing like the last 4 years, where it's like, I want to hear something critical about our president. It's like, oh, okay, Jesus fucking, okay. But now it's like, I want to hear some legitimate criticisms of Biden. And unless you already know the people that you can trust, respect, whatever, that have been solid, no matter who's the president, it's not out there. You got to look for Glenn Greenwald's, for me, the Jimmy Dore's, Aaron Mate's, libertarians, because they seem to be the most consistent, even though there's a whole ass load of shit that I'm just sick of with libertarians, or at least the party and the Beltway libertarians, the Nick Sarwalks of them. It's bad enough for
Adam Bates.
Not a fan of him. I see you post a lot of stuff about him, and And
That's because he's got a gripe with the Mrs. Caucus.
Yeah, the Mises Caucus,
the Mises,
which I am a part of.
I know.
I'm a dues paying member. I was actually on a Zoom call with them Sunday. Shit, I don't know. Maybe it might have even been Monday. I'm bad with days, but they're the only part of the Libertarian Party that I see that has the balls to say no. We're not going to try to placate to the social justice warrior identity politics left. We're not even going to speak their language because they are not libertarian. They do not share our values. They would gladly violate your private property rights. They don't give a fuck about that. So why are you trying to garner favor with people that despise you? That they will never become libertarians. Leave them alone and go after people who want individual freedom, individual responsibility, to be left the fuck alone. There's part of being on this, identity politics left stuff is it's incumbent upon you to not leave people alone because everyone is inherently doing something that you think is a violation of some new made up thought crime that you just created. So we must not leave you alone because silence is violence and blah, 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 blah. And so any libertarian that is seeking to speak that language to hopefully, get them on our side, I'm not interested in. It's a waste of time. The Libertarian Party is already a waste of time. We got 3.5% this time. That's a huge success. You're not converting minds of people. You're doing a piss poor job, and spending your time in the left, I don't think is going to do anything for you. I think it's going to get a lot more people to vote for Trump, like I did, instead of for Jo Jorgensen, because she was, or at least whoever was running her Twitter account, which if she can't even fully affect her own campaign, she doesn't have a shot to do shit if she was to become president. So, yeah, I voted for Orange Man just as a protest vote against my own Libertarian Party. That's how angry I've been the last 6, 8, 9 months about what I've seen coming through the political forums. Anyway, that was a very long response you didn't ask for, but
no, you're good. I mean, I see where you're coming from. I mean, obviously, I disagree with some of that. Like, I know like why you don't want to focus on issues like race and stuff like that, or being like anti-racist or whatever. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we just have different thoughts on that. But I personally think that in a perfect world, we should be able to just be colorblind or whatever and act like it's something that we don't need to talk about. But I think until we actually handle a lot of the issues that are like they're already out of the bag and they're provably race issue topics, like mm-hmm. the race issue has to be talked about until I don't know, at some point hopefully we can get away from it, but I don't know when the fuck that is.
Never if they have their way, because it's a tactic in order to put others down so that they can retain their influence. If they didn't have any influence, if this wasn't being bought into, you wouldn't hear it ever again. It's working for them. But
it's bought into because it actually exists too.
Yeah, and it's never not going to exist. That's why I'm like, okay, how much effort are we going to put into fighting this thing that I don't feel is really affecting as many people as we're led to believe? I don't think every interaction that negatively affects a black person only affects them because they're black.
No, I agree with that, but there's a lot of different factors that play into that, though, and it's like
just like anything else.
Just
like anything else. Just like that white guy.
But would you agree that
didn't just get successful because he's white? There's a lot of factors in that.
Of course.
Same thing with the black guy who is successful. Even the non-rappers or athletes, the regular business people that, that go to school, get an education, and accomplish things. There's a lot of factors that got them to that point. And not everything is whittled down to if something bad has ever happened to somebody, it's because of inherent racism that's baked into the system, that now instead of fighting the negative parts of the system as far as the power that they have, we're going to now fight it as a racist problem. Well, good luck trying to convert every single human being to never be racist, because I've looked at everything that they have to say and what they stand for, and first of all, it's never ending, and it's an impossible quest, because you're talking about thought crimes, you're talking about people thinking incorrectly, and you're trying to change how people think, and if they don't, they can't be part of your society. I'm not interested in that. I want you to be able to be as free to think whatever you want, even if it's the most fucked up shit ever. But just as long as you're not physically acting out or taking something away from somebody, I don't care.
Mhm.
And because
I think where I stand on it, and I agree that like at a certain point it becomes a hindrance on progress. Last night I tried to have a conversation about I made a post on Facebook that it surprisingly didn't get much reaction from anybody, but I put
everybody saw that it was nuclear, and they're like, mm-mm.
probably, honestly, but it was the one about all of the white people that have died at the hands of police, and the police officers, whether they were white or black, they didn't get charged at all, or they got tried and never got convicted for it. And even the Daniel Shaver case, not only did he get away with I would say murdering that he was fucking gunned down with his hands in the air, like unarmed, whatever. He fucking claimed PTSD and is getting a paycheck for the rest of his life. And it's
of course. So, he's got mental illness, bro. You gotta pay him now. Sorry, Whitey died, but he's gonna get rich. So,
but yeah, well, what I was gonna say is that so when we talk about police issues and criminal justice reform, it's a lot deeper than a race issue. So like basically what I said at the end of like my long rant was like, the way that I personally would like to frame it is that like, look, this entire issue is really fucked up, but we can acknowledge the fact that black people will face the brunt of it, and that's for multiple reasons. It's not just it's not like it's not like cops just literally wake up and they're like, I'm gonna go kill a black guy today. It's not like some inherent like race, like solely race based hate or something like that.
It's been 23 days since I gunned down an innocent unarmed black man.
It's like there's so many fucking things that go into that. It's like policing. Yeah, I mean, we could talk about that shit for the entire day, but it's at a certain point it does a disservice to your progress to only talk about just black victims and talk about how white people always get justice and whatever, but yet Daniel Shaver's mom and dad don't have a son, and the person that murdered their son is getting paid for the rest of his life. It's like,
yeah, and they're not even like, and I've said this before and I'll continue to say it, as soon as they stopped at race and made it a race issue, I'm out. I'm not interested in race. I don't give two flying fucks about anybody's race. If you're being mistreated, that is what should be combated. If the state or the teeth of the state, that being law enforcement, are the ones at fault, then you go after them for the thing they did, not because the thing they did was to a person with a certain immutable characteristic. I have zero desire to wade into the race pool. You know why? Because I can't do shit about mine, and you can't do shit about yours, and nobody can. So what it comes down to is a thought issue. You have to think like this now. Well, fuck you. Fuck you. My thoughts didn't hurt you. That baton across the back of your head did, by somebody who didn't respect your rights. That's the problem. Race has nothing to do with it. Even if that guy hit you over the head because he straight up is racist and he only did it because you're black, I'm still against it because it's called assault. And if we can get rid of assault, then everybody benefits, even the black people. You would think that that would be something that might, be positive, that would get people to say, I'm down with that. Let's stop trying to divide people based on things they can't control. And let's try to stop the things they can, like physically attacking somebody as a member of the state. But I'm just crazy. I don't know. Maybe we can get back into this race thing for another 50 years and see how better off we are, 25, 30 years down the road. It ain't going to be good.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it's just like the, whether you place importance on like empathy, I guess, is like, so your version and my version aren't really that far apart. It's just like my version is like, I'm more empathetic to, minorities that get affected by this stuff more so than other people do. And you're just like, well, we can be sensitive about it, or we can just fucking talk about the root cause, which I am a fan of, focusing on root causes, and avoiding emotion and stuff like that. But it's just like my natural response is to say, yeah, it is worse for you, but also the entire issue is fucked up and we need to fix the entire issue.
Here's my take. Stopping at race is,
I don't want to stop at race. I don't know if I made that clear.
No, I know, but I'm just saying, this is why I'm so against it that I won't even entertain it, because stopping at race, saying this minority group is disproportionately affected, that's short-sighted empathy, because you're leaving out anybody that's not a part of that race into that conversation, saying they need to come along too. Because the way that I see it is, okay, so what's the issue? Impoverished people that have all these setbacks, that can't get ahead. Cool. Let's look into this. Let's find out the economic factors, the socioeconomic factors, the cultural issues, the educational issues. If we're going to solve this, then let's be bold and solve it for everybody that is affected by this. And here's the thing. Everybody who's affected by anything isn't all one thing anyway. You're going to have Hispanics, Asians, white, black. We're a diverse country. There's not just one particular type of person that's getting it worse than everybody else. Okay, if you say, but if 70 some odd % of impoverished people that experience this happen to be black, so we must just immediately chalk it up to racism. No, I cannot and will not go there with you, because what you're doing is saying that other 30%, you're not as sexy to me. You're not. I can't have self-loathing over your problems, because obviously the only reason why these black people are in this position is because America took part in slavery. That's it. Because everybody knows slavery is so bad that any bad thing that they're still experiencing has to be some derivative of that. And if there's a white guy that's experiencing that, or anybody else, well, then they just misuse their privilege, and we're just going to write it off, and we're not even going to pay it any attention. And that's how I see it. I could be vastly mistaken.
Yeah,
but that's where
I see it a little bit differently, because at least, so I don't know if you meant to like just minimalize it to just slavery, but it's not like it's a lot more than just slavery.
No, I understand, but I'm simplifying it so that I can whittle it down to
make it sound stupid, so you don't. So
the
your
message
argument sounds better.
That's the essence of arguments.
That's politics.
Yeah,
but no, I mean, I don't know. To me, we can jump to another subject in a second here, but I mean, basically, to me, it's I feel like it is extremely relevant to talk about. Part of the issue is that a lot of white people will say, "Oh, well, you haven't been slaves for 300 years, and my parents didn't own slaves, whatever," and that just completely negates all of the other terrible fucking. And most of this is state, enforced atrocities on Black Americans, and it's like, yeah, more Black Americans are impoverished, not just because they were slaves 200 years or however many hundred years ago, but all of the continual legislation that the government has pushed out, including our current fucking president right now, over the last 30 years has pushed out the worst fucking criminal justice policies like of our lifetime at least, and it has disproportionately affected black people. And so it's like,
yeah,
it's worth talking about, because and also if you don't talk about these other things, then there are the I don't know what the word I'm trying to look for, but I don't know, like advantageous or whatever, white people that will just point at the numbers on the sheet and say, look, well, black people were more criminal, and it's that's as simple as it gets for them. It's like, well, yeah, but look, black people are more criminal, so of course they're arrested more.
Mm-hmm.
But like, why are black people more criminal? Because they're just inherently criminal people, or they, is there environmental aspects to that? Is there like a history of, the government literally pumping crack cocaine into their neighborhoods and then imprisoning them at a 100-to-1 ratio sentencing compared to powder cocaine that white people use? Like, it needs to be, it has to be talked about. We all know
some Cubans like to use it too, but no, I'm just fucking with you. But okay. And that is like the argument. My thing is, okay, well then your problem should be with the state, not with
my problem is with the state.
Well, and that's why you and I are still friends, because if you were if you were like, no, we got to fight white supremacy, and your whole thing was all about anti-whiteness, yeah, I'd be gone. But my point is when every problem is like rooted down to, well, they're upholding white supremacy, my whites, they're just out there being all supreme and shit. I'm like, who the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah.
And that's why I'm saying, okay, your problem is with the state, and your problem is with the power that the state holds to where they can enact policies that affect you that way. Your problem ain't with me. I'm not doing any of that shit. So if you want a common ally in this fight, have the right target. Your target isn't, your tactics and your target seem to be a little off at times.
Right.
And the message that you put out there is highly polarizing, and it makes people like me, who's like, the problem's over here. The problem is right the fuck there, and you're way the fuck over here. The problem's in DC and you're front of AutoZone. What the fuck are we doing?
Yeah.
And if I criticize it, I'm exemplifying my privilege. And it's like, you're so not even attempting to fix the thing you claim is hurting you. I can't take you seriously. I've got to move on with my day. Good luck.
Yeah.
And that's kind of just how I am, because it's like, we don't have the same interests. We don't have the same perceived enemy. You think that somehow I'm wrapped up in this, and I don't want to engage with people at all that think that way. I am of no use to them, and likewise the other way.